is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra Batiste, and once again, I am joined by my friend, the three-time Pro Bowler, the host of the morning show on 92.9 The Game, one Mr. Hugh Douglas. Happy Friday, Hugh.
Happy Friday, Tenitra. How you doing today?
I am good. I'm good because it's Friday, which means it's the weekend, and I'm always excited about weekends in the ATL, especially because we got some big things coming up in the city this weekend, and also big things popping on the Locked On Sports Atlanta network. We are over 2,000 subscribers thanks to our supportive fam, our audience. We appreciate you guys for continuing to subscribe. Make sure you like and follow us on YouTube and all of the social media platforms that you can, but also when you go to places and platforms where you get your podcast, make sure you download us and give us a 5-star review, because when we bring you 5-star guest hosts, that's your way to say thanks for us doing that. Also, we want to talk about whether or not the Hawks had a 5-star draft last night, Thursday night, NBA draft. Going to talk a little bit about the Braves, who are looking every bit the 5-star World Series champions that they are, and winning the series against the Giants this week. And are they ready for Freddie this weekend? And also in For the Culture, we're going to talk about an Atlanta icon who is going to be etched in legendary status, not just here in Atlanta, in For the Culture. So let's get right to it, Hugh, because there is a lot to talk about. Let's start off talking about that NBA draft. Before we get into the Hawks, just want to talk about the draft bigger picture, because of course we were waiting with bated breath to see what would happen at number one, just like everyone else. And everybody's watching to see what the Magic were going to do. And all we heard about all week, and even the weeks leading up to it, was that Sandy Creek's own Jabari Smith was going to snag that number one spot, right? And then all of a sudden, a last-minute switch. Duke's Paolo Banchero was the number one pick. Jabari Smith ends up going number 3 to the Rockets. And, of course, Chet Holmgren, number 2 to OKC. But for the most part, I felt like it was a pretty quiet draft, relatively uneventful, not too shocking.
Well, the biggest shocking thing was the outfits that those young kids wore.
Always.
And you know what's funny, Tanisha? I'm not mad at them, because I could go back in the archives, look at some of the stuff that I wore back in the day. It was really bright, with the Maury big block gaiters and things of that nature. So I'm not mad at them, but it seems to me like every year during the NBA draft that the kids try to one-up the year before.
Yes.
And do something outlandish, because it's your night, everybody's watching, and you want to make sure that your outfit stands out. Now, let's be real. Some of those outfits, like the one Paolo had on, come on, man. Where is he going to wear that outside of draft night?
Exactly.
He's not going to wear that outfit anywhere else. He just wore that, and he made it because he knew he was getting drafted. You probably will never see that suit again.
Ever, ever, ever. That's one of those where I don't know if you frame that or if you heirloom it, put it in the back of the closet. I'm not sure, but yeah. And that's what you love about the NBA. The NBA is extra, just all the way around, and they have a flair for the dramatic. So yeah, they did not disappoint in their outfits last night.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Exactly. And it was relatively quiet, unless you were a certain Knicks fan. Well, maybe it wasn't as quiet for them. But it's funny though, because low key, I went to the Hawks draft party last night, and as much fanfare as there was, and people were pretty excited, by the way, about that AJ Griffin pick at number 16. They were actually, the fans in the audience were pleased with that, and they were booing the Knicks all at the same time. So it was kind of fun to see that, because of course that's their nemesis. And of course the Hawks had that number 44 pick. They send that over to the Warriors for $2 million. They end up picking Tyrese Martin at 51 from UConn. So overall, not a bad way to go, and actually not a bad way to go for Georgia as well, because we talked about Jabari getting that number 3 pick. So nice to see him still get a lottery nod, if you will. And the Rockets are building something solid there, so not a bad place for him to land.
No, not at all. I don't think so. I mean, you look at the draft as a whole, I would probably say the first 4 kids are probably going to be the ones that actually see the court this year.
Yes.
Everybody else, you talk about AJ Griffin for us, for the Atlanta Hawks, might not even see the court this year, might be slated for the G League. And it's just great to see these young men get an opportunity to live out their dream. Because you think about it, Titty, what, the oldest one, like 18, 19?
Yes.
So there's still a bunch of kids out there that are getting ready to play with a bunch of grown men. So it's only going to be a few of them that are going to get a shot to play this year.
Right. And we're going to circle back to that in our deep dive on the Hawks because Hugh, you make a great point on just what it's going to look like for AJ Griffin and even Tyrese Martin for this upcoming season, especially thinking of the high expectations for the Hawks. Now, Georgia Tech also had Michael DeVoe get what they call an Exhibit 10 contract, which basically means that you're guaranteed a spot in training camp with the Clippers. And then Jordan Usher was able to, according to some AJC sources, get a summer league deal with the Jazz. So we definitely hope maybe those guys will have a situation happen for them like it did for Jose Alvarado, who we know was a critical piece for the Pelicans, especially as the season went on and into the postseason. Maybe those guys will get a good look as well. But speaking of a good, and better look, oh my God, Dansby Swanson, Lieutenant Dan 7 did it again. He had his seventh multi-home run game of his career. You got to love it. This time it was that 2 home run day that he had last night. Braves started up. They went up 7-1, thanks in large part to what he did. And then, of course, they held on to for dear life to get a 7-6 win. And he might have even gotten a third home run at the plate appearance, if not for that hit by pitch. But really, it was about a couple different things. They were able to, the Braves were able to gut out that win. And whether it's a situation where they get a couple walk-off wins, like the first 2 wins in the series, or they get a win like this where it's gut-wrenching, but they get it done. This is what you want to see out of this team as they continue to climb and make some headway in the NL East.
Especially after they had that 15, well, I always say 15, but it was actually 14 game winning streak that they had that was broken by the Cubs. You know, a lot of people talked about that streak and talked about you played a bunch of tomato cans.
Right.
And to go out there and take 3 or 4 from the San Francisco Giants the way that you did, in the fashion that you did.
Yes.
You have to look at this Brave team and think that they're serious. They're for real, if you will. And now you have the Dodgers coming into town. They could just build off of that momentum that they've already started.
Yeah, agreed. And that momentum has been it's interesting because it's been in part to different players and at different stretches, right? On different and I love that about the Braves. On any given day, somebody can step up to the plate and be that guy for them. But maybe the most consistent person, the player who's been that guy most consistently this season could arguably be Dansby Swanson. Because when you look at the tear that he has been on, hitting 302, 12 home runs, and then when you combine that on base and the slugging percentage, and he's at 868. And then yesterday, Ronald Acuna Jr.'s out, Austin Riley's out, Adam Duvall's getting a day off, so that puts Dansby in the leadoff position, and it's a home run. I mean, he's just doing some lights out things, and it just made me think as we close in on the All-Star break as another measuring stick, of course, Memorial Day being the first, but this All-Star break, as we're closing in on that, I kind of look at Dansby and I'm like, wow, he is your team MVP. He's really starting to show himself as a leader for this team, and he is finding his way into the conversation for NL MVP.
Oh, there's no question about it. You know, we were talking about when Freddie Freeman left, you know, who was going to fill that leadership void. And there's so many different ways that you could be a leader. Some leaders lead by example. Some leaders get up in the locker room and they give these new rocking speeches or whatever you have and try to get the team motivated. I think Dansby is the former. He's the guy that's going to go out there and he's just going to lead by his play. I think that's the way Freddie Freeman did it. I don't know what they're saying in the locker room, but I think the best way to be a leader is to go out there and lead on the field. Now, he had a start where at the beginning of the season, he didn't look that great.
Right.
But now he's starting to hit his groove a little bit, and it's right on time. I've always said about these Atlanta Braves, when the weather changes and it gets warm in the A,
you have.
Hey, that's when they get hot. And I know most baseball fans, they don't like to hear that because they want instant gratification. I got to let y'all know it's 162 games. That's a lot of games. But they're hitting that stride at the right time. And like you said, Tenitra, they're getting contributions from everybody, the Michael Harris's of the world and people like that. So, yeah, they're doing really well right now.
Yeah, and Hugh, I'm going to ask you this question as a former player. And it's sort of a reverse question, right? Because typically speaking, if you go to a team like a Freddie Freeman and you parted ways and it wasn't the greatest way to part ways, you come back into your old park or your old, in your case, stadium or your old arena, if you will, whatever the case may be. and you have something sometimes that you feel like you want to prove, right? Because it was not an amicable parting per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, low key, and of course, Dan's response, and it was kind of tongue in cheek when he basically said, "Oh yeah, bring it, Freddie, because we're gonna give it to you." It was kind of tongue in cheek when he said it. But I wonder if low key, I think the Braves are kind of ready for Freddie. Like I think they want to prove that they are still that team, even without Freddie Freeman, as he comes to Truist Park for the first time with the Dodgers tonight.
You know what? I think that's the case. You know what is even funnier, Tenitra? I look at that game knowing that they know that it's coming. It just had me wondering. You know how my mind works. I was like, how many guys went to the hotel last night to say hi to Freddie? I'm pretty sure there was quite a few. I'm pretty sure there was quite a few. But the bottom line is they represent the A. They represent the Atlanta Braves, and they're trying to get back to the World Series because there's some guys on this team that are new to this team that weren't a part of that World Series run. You talk about a guy like Ronald Acuna who was a part of the team but wasn't actually on the field when they won the World Series.
Exactly.
So they want to see what that feels like. You talk about Matt Olson, the guy who is filling Freddie Freeman's shoes. You talk about Michael Harris, a guy that's coming up, knowing or seeing what it felt like or seeing what other people felt like to win the World Series. That's a strange spot to be in, walking around the locker room and seeing these big old fat rings on cats' fingers, and you ain't got one. I want to know what that's like. So you got some guys on this team that's looking at this roster, looking at what they did last year, and they want to be a part of that. Yeah, Freddie Freeman's come back to town, but at the end of the day, Fred, you are in the way of my ultimate goal, and you are a measuring stick because, like John Fricke said today, there's a good chance that these two teams might meet in the playoffs once again.
Exactly. And for me, that's the thing where I believe the Braves are low-key looking for an opportunity to make a statement in this series this weekend. Another team looking to make a statement in the A tonight, the Dream. The Dream are back home. They're on the second game of a 3-game homestand tonight. They play the Liberty. And what I love about this is this is a team that is in complete rebuilding mode, a franchise in complete rebuilding mode and completely changing up and remixing their identity, and yet less than halfway through the season. If they get this 9th win tonight, they'll have more wins than they had the entirety of last season. So looking for some big things down on the south side tonight with the Dream. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some big things that might be popping at State Farm Arena this coming season. But did the Hawks do what they needed to do last night to at least put the Hawks in position for a big 2022-23 season? We'll talk about it on the other side. It's ATL Day Ones. We'll see you on the other side.